Hello, everybody. My name is Dave Jackson, he, him.
And I'm Michael Berger, he, him.
And this is Tales from the Backlog, where each week I am joined by a guest to deep dive a game from our backlogs. Today's game is The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. But before we get into that, a few quick things. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. If you like the show, please consider supporting it however you can. You can sign up on Patreon, you can tell friends, you can share it in Discord servers, you can like and comment on YouTube, leave ratings and reviews on podcast apps. All of that stuff is very helpful, and I appreciate anything that you can do to help. And also, if you're worried about spoilers, here's the spoiler policy. We are not going to spoil the story of The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom for quite some time. You can check down in the show notes for a timestamp for when spoilers begin. Until that point, you are safe, per usual. And that's how it works every week here on the show. So, as you heard at the beginning, Michael Berger is back on the show. If you don't know him, Michael's one of the hosts of Bits of Time. He's also an author and the owner of the coolest magical arm this side of the Mississippi. Michael, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. I just need Link's very long, luscious hair, and I'll be a force to reckon with on both sides of the Mississippi.
Link wishes he had your beard, I'll tell you that much.
It used to be a lot longer, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me back on the show. I love it here, and this is a little bit outside my wheelhouse, so that's exciting.
Exactly. Yeah, so a lot of people, I think, if they know you, if they know the type of stuff that you make, they know you as an RPG guy first and foremost. And you were on the show previously. We did Parasite Eve together, and then most recently was Xenogears, which was just a wild experience trying to do one podcast about Xenogears with everything we wanted to say. But yeah, back today for a Zelda game. It is Tears of the Kingdom. I'm looking forward to doing the deep dive on such a big game.
Absolutely. It's going to be a blast.
Tears of the Kingdom is an action-adventure game developed and published by Nintendo for the Switch in 2023. It got a Switch 2 upgrade on when the Switch 2 released in 2025. The game was directed by Hidemaru Fujibayashi, who is notably directed many Zelda games going back to the Oracle series on Game Boy Color. And most notably, perhaps, was the director of Breath of the Wild. And the producer in the game, Eiji Aonuma, has been a producer, supervisor, director, etc., higher up for damn near every Zelda game since Ocarina of Time. And so as we go through the rest of the show, I think we might return to this point where Nintendo's continuity, especially in leadership positions, game director positions, especially like within the Zelda series, we have directors going back over 20 years in the series now. So when it's like, we're going to make Tears of the Kingdom our biggest, most ambitious game, arguably, they're like, yeah, no problem. We've been doing this forever. This in our blood now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very unique thing to Nintendo themselves, I feel like. There are some companies that do it, but Nintendo really holds on to their employees. And in some aspects, it really shows.
Yep. I mean, Nintendo, there's a lot of shit that they should get criticized for, but having staff retention and having this institutional knowledge is like, I mean, it's part of the secret for why their games keep hitting. So Tears of the Kingdom, yeah. If anyone doesn't know what it is, we've got our quick pitches for the top of the show per usual. I say Tears of the Kingdom is a sequel that makes Breath of the Wild look kind of like a warm-up.
That's a little spicy there, Dave. So
warm, okay.
We'll get to that, I think. Mine is a near perfect example of a gaming sequel treading the line between iteration and evolution.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Moving forward while still working on some of those ideas, for sure. I played this on the Switch for about half of my playtime, and then the other half was with the Switch 2 upgrade. I bought this on release day, and it took me over 2 years to actually like complete my playthrough. So Switch for one half, Switch 2 for the other half. Total time was about 75 hours to roll the credits. How about you?
So I picked it up on release day and I finished it release year. I think it took me about 64 hours to finish. And then I have the family plan with the NSO. So I have my brothers, my wife, and a couple other people on there. And so I checked out the Switch 2 upgrade. And at least that's what my plan was. But I ended up spending like another 35 hours just wandering around. So that's what happens.
Yeah. It definitely happened to me a lot of times too, where it's like, hey, I got 10 minutes before I should get to bed. Let me throw on Tears of the Kingdom. I'll do a shrine. And then it's like, it's been an hour. What have I done?
Distractions.
Yeah. So we always get started with our histories with the game itself. But I mean, of course, with Zelda, we've got a big, long series to talk about too. So Michael, I'm not sure that we've ever talked about this before because we're usually talking RPGs between us. What's your history with the Zelda series? You said you picked up this on release day. So do you have a big, long history leading up to that?
So this was my most anticipated game of 2023. So I was very much looking forward to it. I loved Breath of the Wild. My first Zelda game that I remember playing was Ocarina of Time on the N64. Back when you could rent systems, couldn't even get past the Deku Tree. So I was just a young lad and not very smart at video games. Plus, I had never really played a game like that. The 3D action adventure. I was used to platformers and some RPGs at the time. So I've played every 3D mainline entry. I have played I've gone back and now played a couple of the 2D ones like Minish Cap, Link to the Past. So I want to play them all eventually, but I really like Zelda games, and I'm actually a pretty big Nintendo fan, even outside of all the corporate stuff, we'll say. But I grew up on Nintendo and PC, and Nintendo's my love, and I love Zelda.
Yeah. There we go. So kind of like you, Ocarina of Time was a really formative game for me. It's a game that if you would have caught me anytime between, say, the year 2000 and like 2015 or so, basically like the time when I was like able to have an opinion about what my favorite game was up until 2015 or so, it would have been Ocarina of Time. It was a super formative game. I played it dozens of times as a kid, as a teenager. And my first one was actually Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, which I think I got maybe the year before we got Ocarina of Time. And then through then I played basically all of them. I may have skipped a DS game along the way because I didn't like swiping with the stylus to use the sword. I think that's a bad thing. So, but all that to say, a long history with Zelda. It's been consistently one of my favorite series, even if, there's some bumps along the road for sure. Yeah. And then I told this story on the Breath of the Wild episode, and I'll repeat it here. Breath of the Wild is a game that brought me back to gaming after taking years, not like years off, but like it was a very, very minor hobby of mine for several years. And Breath of the Wild was like a last thing where it was like, I'm not playing a lot of games. I got these consoles sitting around. What if I just play this, new Zelda game, and then I'll sell my shit and, I'll do other stuff. And that's obviously, we're here today. That's not how things played out. And it's because Breath of the Wild was such a joy to play. And so obviously I was looking forward to Tears of the Kingdom. I replayed Breath of the Wild right before this came out. I did my podcast on it. And I'll just say this right now, as we go through like the meat of this episode, because there is like I think it's like almost 3 hours long Breath of the Wild podcast on the feed. We're not going to like explain how this game works. We're not going to explain how stamina and cooking and gliding and all of those things work, because I spent 3 hours doing that a couple years ago. So go listen to that episode if you don't know how it works.
It's a good episode.
Thank you. Our discussion today is going to focus a lot on like that iteration and the evolution, like you said, because when I said in the elevator pitch that this makes Breath of the Wild feel like a warm up, I didn't mean it to be like a spicy Breath of the Wild sucks now type of take.
Oh, okay.
It's more of a like, they took what made Breath of the Wild new and they rolled that into like, now that's the foundation in this game. And they added a whole bunch of crazy shit on top of that would have made my head spin if I had heard about it in Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild's new stuff made my head spin. So like that's what I mean. Like Breath of the Wild is not at all diminished by Tears of the Kingdom. I still think that game is incredibly good. But Tears of the Kingdom just like, all right, okay, so you did that. Now check this shit out. You can build whatever the fuck you want to build. You can use these different abilities we give you to go wherever you want to go. Like player freedom has never been as free as it is in Tears of the Kingdom, like freedom of movement specifically. Like
that's
they're
a
just
great encapsulation of that, because
Yeah.
that's when I think of an open world game like Breath of the Wild in particular, kind of reaffirmed what I felt like playing the old Bethesda games. Like, oh, I can literally do anything. And the crazy stuff you could do in Breath of the Wild is insane. And this one, again, it ratchets it up in a different way. I think it's really cool that Breath of the Wild inspired you, and you were like the indie podcast guy to me. And so it's crazy that little switch, and look where you're at now, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not to say that I would have never played a game again, but I certainly would not be hosting this show if it wasn't for Breath of the Wild at that specific time and place.
Well, I'm happy for that, because that led me to playing Xenogears, and I love Xenogears now. So
yeah, exactly. And it could lead other people to Xenogears too, I hope. If we just keep casually mentioning,
the message.
Yeah. But yeah, this is just a crazy game if you sit back and think about it, like running on the Switch, giving you all this freedom to basically go wherever you want to go, trying their hand at more involved storytelling. The fact that it took me 2 years to beat the game is not at all an indication of like me thinking that the game is lesser in any way.
Okay.
I just got podcaster brain and I got distracted because it wasn't like in the next 2 weeks ahead of me on the podcast schedule. And I didn't even have a guest lined up for a long time. It was just like, hey, like I'll get closer to the end and then I'll start reaching out to people. And I think it was around that time that you had done something on Bits of Time about Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, we'll get Michael back on the show if he wants to talk about this. So what are your kind of top level thoughts about Tears of the Kingdom?
So yeah, that iteration versus evolution. I agree with you that Breath of the Wild, it doesn't diminish that. That is 100% true. I've seen that take a lot lately, but they're they're so different, but yet so similar. And I feel like what this game does even better than Breath of the Wild is it distracts you like I want it to. It's almost the perfect cadence of, okay, I got my shrine, but on the way to the shrine, I saw this out in the distance. Okay, let me go do that. And like you said, I'll just do this 1 or 2 shrines before bed, and you're still up 3 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
And at its core, it is a very different style Zelda game than what came before, minus Breath of the Wild, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I think this is the direction that the series needed, and I'm excited about that because I don't know where they're going to go from here.
Yeah. This is it's an interesting direction that like Nintendo's tentpole franchises have gone in. I feel like Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong now here in 2025 have all seemingly gone in this player expression focused direction. Even Donkey Kong, they're starting to give Donkey Kong some, expressive movement, and you can destroy the terrain and all kinds of stuff like that. It really feels like Nintendo is putting more emphasis on letting players be creative, letting players master a toolkit rather than the old style of Zelda, which is like, here is your puzzle. Do this puzzle and then progress to the next puzzle, and I love that formula.
Yeah.
I said on the Link to the Past episode, that is a formula that just works for me. I grew up doing it. I like it. I will, I'm going to play more Zelda games. I'm planning on replaying Twilight Princess next year. And that's back to the formula, and I'm excited to replay it and see how I feel about it. So it's not to say that formula is bad, but Nintendo has clearly shifted in like a player expression, player creativity sort of direction, I feel like.
And they've always been kind of gameplay focused first, right? They add
Yes.
mechanics to gameplay. Story is generally ancillary to their whole thing. Minus the
Yeah.
Xenoblade games now, that's kind of, it's becoming a tent pole for for Nintendo, and maybe Fire Emblem now too, but that's also
Right.
gameplay focused. But I do like the idea because in this game, gameplay is so key to the story as well. That adventure feeling.
Yep.
Which I'm sure
Oh
we'll get
yeah,
there.
you come out of this with an adventure and a story to tell, for sure. Whenever someone mentions like Nintendo's gameplay focus thing, I remember reading a quote from Miyamoto, which was basically like, I'm paraphrasing like horrifically here, but he was like, I don't give a shit about stories in video games. Gameplay is what it's all about.
I think that was word for word for translation, right?
No,
there.
it's a direct quote. He said it in English too. It wasn't translated. So, yeah, no, it's definitely a continuing priority, especially in these series that are traditionally gameplay first. Not the Xenoblade, the Fire Emblem, etc. And they're just evolving the way that they feel about gameplay. What should it be? And they're obviously going in this player expression direction. But we've got a lot to talk about. So let's take our first music break of the episode. When we come back, we will set up the story of Tears of the Kingdom. The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, is canonically after the events of Breath of the Wild, a couple years after, I believe, and it's canonically at the end of the Zelda timeline. If you're a Zelda timeline person, this is the last one for now. At the beginning of the game, we're following the events of Breath of the Wild. I'm going to try not to say what happens, at the end of Breath of the Wild. This happens, but it is a direct sequel, so, I may let loose. For example, Link and Zelda are hanging out at the beginning of this game, so that tells you something. So they're doing their thing. Zelda's the princess, Link is her protector. They have been getting reports of a weird, corrupting gloom underneath Hyrule Castle. People have been getting sick if they get close to it, so they go to investigate. They go through this really, really cool opening sequence where you're going through these tunnels, not quite like catacombs, but you're going deep underneath the castle. It's tutorializing slowly, like there's a couple of slimes down there that you fight, or a couple of bats, I think it is. So they teach you how to fight, they teach you how to run, climb, jump, things like that. But Zelda is like, you're discovering some things down there. So it gives some character to Zelda. She's super excited about learning stuff that she sees down there. And then Link is the stoic protector, as always.
And it's a very different opening where you are just following Zelda, protecting her as you're walking down. And you have this weird, ominous music cue that's slowly just coming more prominent. And I love how excited Zelda is about this murals that she's finding. It's so good.
Yeah, down there you find some murals that kind of show you this history of Hyrule, this event that happened called the Imprisoning War. And that is not a spoiler. They're making a whole game about it in the next Hyrule Warriors game, The Age of Imprisonment, I think that game is called. But you play through that war in the game. And so that's a key backstory thing you'll learn about as you go through Tears of the Kingdom. And as they're going down and down, they find a mummy down there that wakes up, attacks them. It shatters the Master Sword. It really injures one of Link's arms. Yada, yada, yada. The castle raises into the sky. Zelda falls into the darkness. And we have our inciting event. It should be noted, Link and Zelda try to fight against it, and they get whooped. They get demolished pretty quickly.
Master Sword breaks. It's all decayed. His arm's all basically decayed. And what I really like about this beginning is, one, it's very ominous. I was like, oh, we're getting a little bit darker for the Zelda entry. And two, they really set up some really cool shots. Like when you first get down to the base where this mummy is, they have this like bright colors amongst all this darkness, and it's such a spectacular shot. I'm like, okay, I'm already gonna love this.
Yeah, it's a really cool opening. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. Like if you've played the game once, if you watch the opening again, they foreshadow a lot of cool stuff that you just like won't pick up on until you know what's up. And then Link wakes up, but he's in the sky, and so we have this extra sky layer of the world in Tears of the Kingdom. Link has this cool robotic arm that replaces his injured one, and you set out to find Zelda, and you set out to defeat whatever the hell that mummy was. I mean, this is Zelda, you know what it is, but you're setting out to defeat it and rescue Zelda. So we'll talk about gameplay here in a second, but this game is, I think, more so trying to tell you a story through a sequence of flashbacks, flashbacks, or like, here's what's going on somewhere else. I don't want to say too much. You can find these just out in the world. You'll find these places with these things called Dragon's Tears that will show you a scene of what's going on. And you can do them in any order, and they're all focused on history and stuff like that. So since this is the primary method, one of two primary methods, I'll talk about the second in a bit. Since this is the first one, how they tell you the story of Tears of the Kingdom. How did you feel about this, the way that this is delivered? Because this is similar to the way you picked up those memories in Breath of the Wild, but those memories to me felt a little bit more like bonus content rather than like the story. And that's what they are in Tears of the Kingdom. They are the story of the game. Well, okay, that's one half of it. Yeah,
I was gonna say, sort of, but yes.
Yes.
So I think what helps all this, because there's a negative and a positive to this. One, I think the onset is so good. There's so much mystery after Link wakes up in the Sky Islands. So I'm already intrigued by that. I've got a villain already that I've seen, and I want to know what happened to Zelda. On the flip side is, when you have a game that is open world, you as the player might not prioritize the story because you're either just focused or getting distracted by all that's in the game. I think this is the way they should have done it because I like the discoverability. You grow over a hill, you see something, you're like, okay, I'm going to go there. At one point, I started hunting for the story elements, but I wanted to seek them out. I think if they interrupted your gameplay too often, I feel like it would not work. So I think even if you can find these out of order, so this history that you are uncovering, you might jump around on that. But I also kind of like piecing that together. I know that's not everybody's thing, but for me, that works. And I feel like that's the only way they could have done the story for this particular game.
Yeah, with an open world game that is as open as this is, you can go anywhere you want right from the beginning. Like, it might be hard to survive in some regions, but like the game gives you tools to survive too. They really need to find a nonlinear way to tell the story because they cannot funnel you in certain directions. There's really at no point do they ever say like, you can only go to the southeast right now. Like that never happens. So they need to find a nonlinear way. And so the way they do that is these memories that you pick up and they just fill in pieces of the puzzle. They do have a menu where you can watch them all in order if you want to know like the order of events in the real timeline, but you will not pick them up in that order. And so for me, this is also kind of a double-edged sword. It being out of order adds a little bit more intrigue to the story, I think, because you're like, I picked this up. Okay, where is it in the timeline? Okay, so this is happening. It's clearly after something I've already seen. And then because you don't have the whole puzzle, you might be missing like right in the middle, one of the most important scenes. That might be the last thing you find. So because they're kind of giving them to you out of order, I think it makes the story more interesting than it is if you had gotten them in order. I think if you go and watch all of these in order on YouTube or in the game, it's fine as a story. it certainly was not something that pulled at my heartstrings. It was not something where I was like, that's really cool. Oh my God, I can't believe what they did. It's not like that. But it was something I prioritized because I really did want to get those other pieces of the story. So like the thing you do in Tears of the Kingdom, you pop out of these towers and you skydive and you look around the landscape for points of interest. And these things really jump out as points of interest. And anytime I saw one, that was priority number one. Get there, see what's going on with this next, story puzzle piece.
It's interesting. I like that you still want to go out and grab them. I think what helps this is because it's a game, right? Actually going out there on the adventure and collecting them is better than the overall. It like adds a bit to the story just because you're doing it yourself and you're discovering it. I think it also helps because I think some of the main story that you're doing on the other side of it is actually pretty interesting too.
Yeah. Part of that is the Emergent story, kind of like you said. It's not just that I go to this place and find this cutscene to watch, basically. It's that sometimes getting to that place requires me to overcome a challenge to get, maybe it's super cold in that area. So I gotta figure out a way to withstand the cold long enough to find this thing. All of this contributes to Emergent story, where it's like, my problem solving, I was able to do this, and then I got to this place and found this story bit. Or anything else that you do in the game basically requires problem solving. And so you start to create your own little story of the adventure that you go on. And that's the other half of the story that I was talking about. You do have like a present day story that you talk with these people. Shout out to Pura at the Lookout Landing, everyone's favorite Tears of the Kingdom character. You do have those characters, but more important to me is that Emergent story of Link's adventure throughout the land, doing everything that he did to overcome all the challenges, because we already talked about the creativity and the expression. What I did and what you did and what anyone listening did, it's going to be different because of all the different ways you can solve these things.
And I think that is the epitome of Legend of Zelda. Like the legend, you feel like you're on this adventure and on an adventure and you're creating that legend. And I think that's so intrinsically tied to this game. You can't have it the other. I mean, you can have it the other way. We played Ocarina of Time, we played Twilight Princess, all that jazz. But this game breeds that. You just need to do it.
That is very similar to something we talked about in the A Link to the Past episode, where it's like the story of A Link to the Past, the plot. If you read the plot summary on Wikipedia, it's it's a basic ass, rescue the princess, fight Ganon type of shit. But what's most important is that Emergent story that like I explored, I found this secret thing, I found a new item or a new spell or something like that. And that's here in this game too. We've made comparisons in the past, between Breath of the Wild and the first Legend of Zelda game. And I think that they're tapping into that older style of, an adventure rather than more traditional game storytelling that they did more of in that Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess era of the series. Skyward Sword is where I think it hit an inflection point. But yeah, that Emergent story, that adventure, that's really, really strong.
And I think what helps that too is having the little past callbacks to previous games surrounding this game.
Yeah.
And also having some fun and quirky NPC characters, which Zelda games have always been good at, but adding that along with the adventure feel and making your own story as you're playing, it really helps.
There is no major AAA franchise with more freaks than Zelda games.
They're Zelda so hot. Games. They're so hot for Link. Everybody.
Everybody. The shout out to all the voice actors who worked on Tears of the Kingdom. And I don't mean like voicing the 5 biggest characters. Like they did a good job too. Whoever voiced Link or voiced Zelda and the 4, main characters. But like just the person who voices Beetle,
wow.
Yeah. Wow. Or just all the times I'd be playing it with the sound on and a character would talk to Link and just go, oh, and my wife is like, what are you playing? Just so shout out to all the voice actors doing the real work out there.
Absolutely.
So we've set up the story. We've set up why you're on this adventure. Let's talk about, the adventure. Let's talk about what it's like to play. So this starts with the tutorial up in the Sky Islands. Breath of the Wild had one of the best, coolest tutorial zones in gaming. And I think these Sky Islands that teach you these new powers, it's a really good tutorial as well. It's very spaced out. It gives you opportunity to experiment. And that's the name of the game here. So shout out to that.
It's beautiful. And they have this just awesome, like French horn, subtle music in the background. You have these bright yellow trees up there. It's just gorgeous too, while you're exploring and learning the game.
It's different. And I'm glad they started you up there and started you in a different zone because, I think you can assume that a lot of people playing this played Breath of the Wild and you spent 100 hours or more on the surface. And so you start up in the Sky Islands in this game. You're introduced to your new powers. So once again, we're not going to explain the basics of these games. Breath of the Wild episode does that. But the new things that you can do, so Link's new robot arm gives him a bunch of new powers. The most basic one is called Ultra Hand, where you can just, anything that's freestanding out in the world, boxes, weapons, anything, you can just pick up and just telekinesis it around, so that's the most basic thing. The other kind of basic one is Fuse, which lets you stick things together. And Fuse is used most often, for me, in two different ways. The first one is like attaching things to make weapons, shields, and arrows better. Weapon durability's back in Tears of the Kingdom.
But they have a story reason.
They do.
The gloom is corrupting
everything. The gloom corrupted everything. So, like, if you hated weapon durability in Breath of the Wild, guess what? It's worse. The weapons are shittier in Tears of the Kingdom. They heard your criticisms and they were like, no, we're correct. We're not changing. We're doubling down.
But I like the fact that it's almost like a 1A, 1B situation. Yeah, it's worse because what you find is worse, but by fusing things together, they make them stronger. So it's kind of like, oh, I can use this weapon longer now. So that's cool.
Right. You can use the weapon longer, and you can also customize your weapons by fusing different things to them. So most often, like so let's say you pick up this shitty sword. It's like a corrupted longsword or whatever. You pick it up. You can't just go fight stuff. It'll break really quickly, but you can fuse a lot of stuff to it. So for example, you can find a rock and just fuse it to it. And now you have a rock club. And you just go bash stuff. It will, like you said, the durability gets better. The weapon gets stronger. Enemies will drop sharp, pointy things, and you can fuse those to your weapons to make them better. There's also, there's seemingly hundreds of things you can fuse. You can get elemental effects. You can get goofy shit. Like if you fuse a spring box to a shield, you can bounce up in the air when you use your shield.
Or you can have protect yourself and knock an enemy off a cliff with that as well.
Yes.
So you can use it as an offensive thing.
Right. Always very fun. Fighting stuff in this game, I don't think feels great. So it's always fun to find creative ways to end combat sooner. Whether it's, you attach a spring to your shield and you just bounce them off the edge of a sky island. That's easy.
That's fun.
Fun. Or, any number of things that you can do. You can also attach stuff to arrows. So every arrow can become, old Zelda games used to have 3 types of arrows and they were used for different situations. And you can make 200 types of arrows in Tears of the Kingdom. You can attach a Keese eyeball to it that will heat seek enemies. You can attach bombs to it to make bomb arrows. You can attach fire elemental things to make fire arrows, on down the list. So we're just at 2 things right now. Ultra Hand, picking stuff up and moving it around, and Fuse to make, thousands of variations of weapons and arrows. We're already crazy. At peak creativity here for combat.
Yeah, and I always liked getting a new item because you can experiment in multiple ways. I can either put it on my shield, I can put it on my weapon, or I can try and use it on my arrow. So you already have 3 different main avenues to use this thing, like just putting a rocket on a shield and blasting yourself up as high as you can go.
Yep.
Or taking a spore shroom, I can't remember the exact name, and then making a cloud everywhere, and you can just go on this backstabbing spree. It's just freaking awesome.
Yeah. I never did that. Some cool stuff that I did, I would attach lightning stuff because getting hit by lightning makes enemies drop their weapons. So I would attach lightning stuff to arrows. I would sometimes attach muddle buds to arrows that kind of frenzies an enemy and makes them attack their comrades. So you can just like frenzy a big enemy or like a lookout or something and just kind of watch as they all fight each other.
That's the best.
So that's
You're
fun.
like standing up on a bench and watching them just all fight each other.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Just chilling. Yeah. So I feel like the Breath of the Wild toolkit is kind of just condensed down into these 2 mechanics now. You had the magnet thing. Now it's like Ultra Hand. It doesn't even have to be a magnet. You can pick up anything that's freestanding, basically. You can, you had the ice power. You can just attach an ice elemental thing to an arrow to do that now. You don't have to use a specific power. The one thing I miss, I do miss stasis from Breath of the Wild. That was the one that you could freeze something and then build up potential energy and just launch it off into the distance. That was always fun to, try and launch like a stone slate into an enemy that's a mile away,
That's where you get all the crazy viral clips from Breath of the Wild. You're like, dude, people are just soaring across the landscape. It's great.
Yeah. But Tears of the Kingdom kind of makes up for that because that's one of the like creative ways that people did speed runs and, just viral clips of cool shit from Breath of the Wild was using stasis. Tears of the Kingdom has 3 things that are kind of insane, I think. The first one is you use fuse to build vehicles. So when I said you can pick up objects around the world, a lot of times you'll find wheels and plywood, boards and maybe a glider, rockets, fans, all kinds of stuff. And you can fuse these things together to make stuff to help you get around. And so earlier I said it's like they're not really interested in inhibiting your movement where you go. And this is the first way where it's like, I want to go up to that island or I want to go, there's a thing I would have to climb really high up to get there. Well, you could climb. You could also just build a hot air balloon and fly up there.
Little torch.
Yeah, just hold a torch and fly up there because this is still in that type of game where logic with how things work works, So if you hold a fire under a hot air balloon, it's going to work because that's how hot air balloons work. You don't have to do like a bespoke thing. However you choose to create fire, it'll work. So the building, we have, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, we have level 1 is just like I attach a fan to a plywood to make a raft to get me across a river. And level 10 is like what you see on Instagram with people building like big mechs with laser cannons and dicks swinging and stuff like that. Where are you on the building scale?
I definitely never made like the giant flying ships and just bombarding people. I did make flying devices and I got pretty good at it. I would say
nice.
Either a 4 or 5, I would say.
Okay.
Because a lot of times I'm like, I just want to attach some wheels and drive. Otherwise, I was making those rafts and pretty simple stuff, but I did get creative here and there.
Okay. I never really did something that the game didn't explicitly ask me to build. It's not the type of thing that I like to do in video games. I'm not a Minecraft person. I'm not like a, build a colony type of person. So I'm not building things. The biggest things that I would do is like, I need to get up to the Sky Islands. Let me, and there's like a 2x4 here and I got some rockets in my inventory or a plywood, and so let me stand on it and I'll attach these 4 rockets to it and I'll launch myself up into the sky. Stuff like that.
Have you ever built a sandcastle?
In real life, yes. In a video game, absolutely not.
Okay, just checking.
We, my friends and I, and the game will ask you to do this a couple times. My friends and I in high school built a working trebuchet. So I do have some like creative building, although I wasn't the brains behind that. I just, hammered stuff and sourced golf balls and potatoes and stuff like that to launch out of it.
That's awesome.
So real life a little bit, but like in this game, I never built torture devices for the bokoblins or anything like that. You see just some insane stuff on here where it's like they're playing a different game than I'm playing right now.
That is very true. And yeah, I never got that creative, but I really did like making the flying devices and putting my batteries, making it last as long as I could. Mm-hmm. Kind of like I'm building an airship, but not as cool as what I've seen.
Yeah, I never built anything that I would say was actually cool inside the game. It's very functional over cool, for sure.
Hey.
But you do have the potential to... You can do what the game asks you in the specific places where they're like, hey, you got to build a glider here, all the way up to you can build transformers and shit like that and just go nuts. They do have a feature that you pick up later called auto build that will it remembers everything that you've ever built. And if you have the materials, you can just build it instantly again.
So cool.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't use it a lot because I wasn't building shit, but I can imagine you're like, 15 hours ago, I built this badass off-road vehicle and I could really use it right now. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, sure. Just fucking make it. If you have the stuff, just make it.
You can save your favorites. Did you not use any of the schematics that they give you then?
No.
Never. Dude, some of those were really cool.
I'm sure they were. I was literally like, there's points in the game where you'll come up and there will be like a little armory of builder pieces. And it will be like, okay, so I'm coming up here. There's a glider. There's a little control rod thing to stand on. And there's a couple of rockets. Well, obviously they want me to build a glider here. So I'm building that specific glider and that's all I'm doing. So that's how I played it.
Gotcha. I like that touch base with the gloom made fuse, right? Made it more better. Yeah. Or they put a story element around it. And they also do that with these materials that have laying around because you're rebuilding Hyrule after the devastation of Calamity Ganon. I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. That's why you find planks of wood and stuff like that everywhere. Because the whole world is a giant construction site in a way. So, so you have all that stuff. So it's already far more creative than Breath of the Wild was. And then they have these two other mechanics they give you right at the beginning of the game that are just, they completely pop the lid off. Whatever lid was left, it's gone now, of keeping you out of places, basically. So the first one is called Ascend, which means any flat ceiling, as long as it's not too high, you can just jump up to it and swim through it and come out on the top, wherever the top is, wherever the surface is. So, for example, if you go down a cave and it takes you 10 minutes to get to the end of this cave, and then you find a treasure at the end, you don't have to go back out the cave. You can just ascend through the top. You'll pop out on the surface.
It's such a simple thing that is absolutely mind-blowing. One, I don't know how you build around this, so that was genius because I feel like there are some areas that are built around it. And two, how it doesn't break the Switch. It's a technical marvel.
Yeah. So when this game came out, basically all the game developers that I follow on Blue Sky and stuff were all just how the fuck does this work? How did they make this work? This is insane. Obviously, I don't understand it from a technical perspective, but I'm going to take their word for it that it's a very impressive technological feat on the Switch, which was underpowered when this game came out. I mean, we got a new one 2 years later.
Yeah.
It was underpowered when the Switch came out. So
exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. But also the design element of it too. I feel like video games and dungeons and things like that are so designed around keeping you on an intended path, doing things in an intended way, really placing limitations on where you can go and how you can go there. And there are ways that Tears of the Kingdom makes Ascend unusable.
Yeah.
But I feel like it worked most of the time that I was like, it would be nice to use Ascend right now. It worked.
Yep.
So again, they're just not interested in keeping you boxed in places, it feels like.
I think why I like it so much too, specifically having this ability, is it's kind of refreshing in the gaming landscape in itself, because you are right. Everybody kind of wants you to play a certain way. And Zelda creators are just like, you know what, just have fun. Just go do it. You're going to build something crazy and probably break this encounter. Oh, I didn't expect you to get up there, but at this point, just go have fun.
Yeah. I just feel like so many games would be like, all right, we want you to go here and it's going to be a challenge to get there. You're going to have to go through, a bunch of combats, or you're going to have to find a way to climb up there and stuff like that. That's what Breath of the Wild would have done, because you didn't have these extra tools. It would have been like, I have to go up the side of this mountain. I can either like fight everything, or I can like climb and be sneaky. And like, it's cool figuring out a different way to get up there. Tears of the Kingdom is like, well, I could build a rocket ship to get up there. I could ascend through the bottom to get up there. It feels like the limits are taken off. And then the last power is called Recall, which basically anything that is moving, you can freeze it in time and rewind its path, send it back to where it came from. So this is one that I just like, I didn't find creative uses for this because I'm not smart enough to like fully unlock the potential of it. But like, let's say, for example, an enemy throws a bomb at you. If you could time it up, freeze that bomb in midair, you can send it back and it'll blow them up instead. Like, just a very simple use for it.
Yeah, so I got decently creative, not crazy, but a lot of the times what I would do is I would use my Ultra Hand on a glider, and I would just chuck it off the side of a sky island. And, I could ride it down, but they don't always have those, those landing things to get it on. So I just recall, hop back on it, and then start flying down that way. Or there's one instance, I believe, in a shrine where you have these crates. And I was like, well, I need to get up to this higher level. Well, you just use your Ultra Hand, drop it, or go as high as you can, drop it, then you get on it, recall it, and shoot yourself back up.
Yep.
So cool.
I did use that a couple times. And it's another thing where it's like, sometimes they'll make recall puzzles where something is moving, and the way to solve the puzzle is to use recall on it and reverse its path.
Yeah.
But you can also just create recall situations by ultra handing stuff around, like you said. And it's just like, again, possibilities feel limitless. I didn't even use recall half the time because I didn't need to, because the other powers that I have were enough to do what I needed to do. The one thing I did use recall for is sometimes you'll just see stuff falling down from the sky, and it's like, I need to get up to the sky islands above, but I don't have a fast travel point because I've never been up there yet. So I can use recall on something that just fell from the sky and just ride it up like an elevator,
Dude, one from just a like cinematic view of seeing things just slowly fall from the sky. Already cool. Intriguing, very cool. Yep. I also like that when you're riding it up, it goes to that black and white, and you have this weird monochrome ticking clock sound. How cool is that? And such a neat way to make quote unquote fast travel a different way. So cool. I had a cool moment with Recall where I was trying to get a chest, and I was also fighting somebody at the same time. And when I tried to open the chest went off the island. I was like, oh no. But then I just hit recall and the chest bounced back onto the island. I'm like, this game's awesome.
There we go. Yeah, you can make up for your mistakes too. Yeah. So all of these combine. And again, the game is immersive simmy in the way that, like, if you think that setting something on fire is going to affect it in the way that setting it on fire would, it will work that way. So combining all those interactions that seem natural with these new powers just blows open the creative play space. We thought that Breath of the Wild was doing this to a crazy degree, and it was for 2017. Now we just have Tears of the Kingdom just completely removing the limits. The guiding hand has to still be there in some way, but it's incredibly hidden and it's incredibly hands-off, I feel like.
And I think what helps that as well is that magical, I'll call it 10 to 20 hour zone at the very beginning, even though you have all these crazy powers, you are still so weak, and you still have to use, because you don't have the materials, you don't have all that stuff. You really have to be careful exploring this world. So it really threads that nice line between you can go anywhere. It's still going to be hard though, even with all these crazy powers.
Yep. The powers themselves are not by themselves super useful for just like fighting stuff, like ultra handing stuff around. I've definitely done it where I've picked up, a big heavy metal box with ultra hand and like pushed an enemy off an edge or like tried to drop it on their head. But it's kind of hard to do. For me, I guess these are not combat forward powers except for fuse. So you do have a really sweet time at the beginning, like you said, where you haven't jumped the power curve. Frank, like honestly, you never do as a character, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Like late in the game, tough enemies hit really hard. They'll still kill you in 4 or 5 hits, especially if you're not using food to boost stats and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But you have so many tools at the end of the game that like if I'm in like a 3-on-1 sword fight with 3 enemies, something I've messed up in some way. They shouldn't be getting that close to me with all the tools that I have. But there's that point at the beginning of the game, like you said, when you're kind of scrounging, you need every weapon you pick up. You need every rock that you find to fuse to weapons. In Breath of the Wild, the combat challenge shrines were the worst ones because it was just boring. Like you just fight the same enemy, in 20 different shrines. In Tears of the Kingdom, they're so good because they reset you to that beginning level. They take away all your armor, they take away all your weapons, and they're like, all right, here's a stick and a bow and 5 arrows. Go use what you can find in here to overcome this combat challenge. And it's like
so good.
It just distills down like the go with the flow, use what you find type of creativity. It's really, really good.
And I like that it emphasizes that beginning, that just magic of, you are scrounging, you're using everything, you're making sure you use all your abilities, and you get to do that over and over again. This game thanks to these combat trends. And one of my favorite ones was you start off from nothing, and there's like this ice moat or this water moat with these floating towers on it and these guardians shooting down at you. It was so fun to get through that. And I died so many times, but it was a blast. And I like that I can think, oh, I loved the combat in this situation a lot.
Mm-hmm. Anytime they ask you to get creative, the combat sings, because it's like, I use my stick to beat this enemy. The stick is almost broken, but the enemy dropped something. So I can fuse it to the stick. It will raise the durability back up, and it's more powerful. And the enemy dropped, a bow. So now I have a bow. And over here, there's a tree that has these shock fruits on it. So I'll fuse the shock fruit to an arrow, which will create an electric, area of effect when you hit something with it. And then that will really hit this thing because it's a machine. And it's like just this cascade of decisions and stuff that I'm saying it a lot more recently because it's really been on my mind as I think about when we say like the gameplay is good and it's fun, what do we actually mean by that? What's going into that? And in a lot of cases, I think decision-making, strategizing, and especially in like that second to second adjusting to different things, this game really gets into that zone where you're like constantly like, okay, I've got a stick, I've got a bow, and I've got 3 shock fruits. How do I do this whole combat challenge? And then this thing drops this thing and it just goes and goes and goes. Suddenly you're at the end and you're like, I did it. I got through with starting out with just a stick. That's good gameplay.
That's a good point where it is doing the decision making constantly, especially in this tight experience. Like we'll take the combat shrines, for example. That really does put a lot of weight on gameplay, because when you look at Zelda games, just swinging your sword, fighting enemies is kind of basic. It's simple, right? But we still love the games for their gameplay. So you are kind of right in the aspect of how you approach the situation is all about the gameplay. I mean, when you think about a strategy RPG, you thinking about your next moves, that's part of the gameplay.
Yeah. And, I think that these games really benefit from having you get in that creative, always adjusting, always making decisions type of mindset, because I don't think that the core sword fighting combat is very good. Like it feels weird to play. The jumps and the flips are like really, they're restrictive and robotic in a way where it's like you jump straight backwards or you jump straight sideways. There's not a whole lot of, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of like variation and expression in the core combat, but it only gets to the point where there has to be just like regular ass, like one-on-one combat. It very rarely gets to that situation. There's always
True.
something else complicating it.
And even when you get to that point, you are still able to use your fused weapons and kind of mess around with it. Even if I'm just doing my slash, I was like, this enemy's only got a little bit left of health. I'm just going to bash him over and over again until he's dead.
Right. You know, there were situations where, you know, I'm in a duel with a really hard enemy and like my extra shit doesn't really affect them a whole lot. Me winning or losing is going to come down to, do I win a sword fight? And those are always my least favorite things about the game, because I don't think that this sword fighting combat is that good. But it's very few and far between. And the ultimate version of that, which happens very late in the game, I thought was pretty fun if it was pretty basic because of everything else that's going on. I won't say more than that. But like, for example, I don't like fighting Lionels in these games because I don't like the sword fighting combat. It's just, you know, can I do 8 flurry rushes in a row? Then I win. I don't know. I just don't, it's not my thing. But it very rarely comes down to that, because it's always like, well, I could straight up sword fight this thing, or I could use my powers and I could use all these fuse things to, you know, set everything on fire and glide up in the sky and freeze time and shoot arrows down. I could do all that instead. Why would I fight with a sword?
Yeah, exactly. Or my big stick, you know?
Yeah.
I love fusing 2 sticks together and making just a giant stick and wearing it on my back.
You fuse one spear to another spear and it's just like you have a spear that like you have to have the strongest glue in the world to hold this shit together, because like it's not functional. It's just very long. One of the things I think this game does better than Breath of the Wild is dungeon design and boss fights, which go hand in hand. There's a boss at the end of every dungeon. The game is set up in a way that they kind of set you free at the beginning, but you have these 4 areas that you're supposed to go to. Eventually, there's a dungeon there. And at the end, a temple in Zelda terms. And at the end, there's a boss fight. I think both of these are big improvements over Breath of the Wild. I wasn't a fan of the Divine Beasts, and the bosses were just not creative, not good in Breath of the Wild. So how did you feel about this stuff?
You know, making the bosses be different in the temples was a nice, that was a great improvement. I liked, I think, there's almost no comparison. Like the temples in this are way better than Breath of the Wild. I like the concept of the Divine Beasts and kind of the story behind them a little bit. And I like the functionality because they were kind of just a small snippet of the old school traditional Zelda, but it wasn't enough for me. In this game, whether we consider, I don't know how you view it, the lead up to a temple, to me, is part of the temple. And I think this game, in at least 2 different areas, spectacularly knocks it out of the park. There are some just awesome buildups to these temples.
Yeah, I think probably two jump to mind right away as like very cool things to do to actually access it, for sure. We'll talk about that in the spoiler section, which ones exactly and what they were. But I'm with you. That is part of it.
Okay, good. At least we're on the same page, because I feel like people are like, there's no I want traditional dungeons. I was like, they're kind of there. I feel like they're there, but just they slightly different.
In this game, more specifically, because it's more back to the old style of like, these are these like sectioned off rooms and they are their own individual challenge to like get that door open somehow or bypass this barrier somehow, rather than the whole dungeon being one big moving puzzle box like they were in Breath of the Wild. I think that, you know, if you are an old head Zelda fan and you're like, I want dungeons like in A Link to the Past or in Ocarina of Time, these are still not that, but they are broken up more like that. I think the name of the game in this game is still using this game's mechanics to bypass barriers however you can, rather than there being like one solution to get that door open, or like, you know, there's a locked door, I need to find a small key, so I go in this room has a small key in it, and to do it I have to fight everything. There's like very little, if any, of that in Tears of the Kingdom still, but they're still built around their creativity. I'm remembering one in the Wind Temple, one specific room that like I must have done this in the most unoptimal way possible to get this door open, but I fucking did it. I did it using my creative skills and honestly, like my bullheadedness was probably the main thing, but they are built around creativity still, to the point where like, hey, they may have built a sequence of rooms and stuff, but you can still climb up the side of the wall. So like you might not have to do that stuff if you don't want to.
Which some people think is a negative. I find that more exciting. Be like you said, if there's a logic there, most likely it's going to work in this game. And being bullheaded, sometimes it just works.
I think the ethos of this game is follow your creativity. And like, if you think in your head, hey, I wonder if I can do this, try it, because it will probably work. And that is still true in the dungeons, even if things are more sectioned off and split up into rooms and distinct puzzles more than they were, you know, out in the open world.
Yeah, if you want to make a stack of springs, climb up them with your stamina and then spring yourself up past something, do it.
Yeah, by all means. Yeah, exactly. And then the boss fights are better. They're you don't fight the same boss in all four temples, which is a big, you know, like we said, step one. They are Zelda style bosses, but Zelda style bosses with you know, you can use the tools you have to overcome in different ways also. I think that there's like an intended way to fight most of the bosses, but that doesn't have to be the way that you do it. Again, kind of trying to marry the old with the new, where the old would be like, this boss, you must shoot the eye 3 times with your hook shot to pull it out. You cannot fight it without doing that. And in this one, it's like, there is a thing that you must do to fight this boss. You're not going to beat them by just whacking their legs with your sword, but how you choose to do that thing is up to your creativity. So trying to marry old with the new, I like this. I don't think that the bosses are like incredible boss fights that I'll remember for the rest of my life, but I remember playing Breath of the Wild and being like, man, fuck this. I don't want to fight this thing for the 3rd or 4th time. And you just don't have that in this game. Yeah. They do reuse bosses, I think, too many times still. It's a thing. I don't have a defense for it. It's a thing.
Yeah, I actually want to get your gauge on this. One of the criticisms I've seen about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is the lack of enemy variety. And I've always kind of come to it with, there's not that many enemies, right? But I have the Halo argument. There's not that many types of enemies you're fighting, but the guns they're using and the makeup of who they are paired with changes the scenarios. And I feel like this game does a really good job of, oh, that guy has a fused thing on his sword that's going to blow me over the edge if I get too close. So having the enemies have different, being able to use the fused items kind of like you, I feel like ratchets it up the variety in that way without it being just a reskin. Obviously, they are those.
You know, I've complained a little bit about enemy variety in some games on the show. Banishers Ghosts of New Eden was one recently, And I've praised other games for their enemy variety on the show recently, like Lies of P, for example, the Dark Souls games. I think that the reason enemy variety feels good or bad in those games is because you fight every enemy the same way in those games. So if what I'm doing is the same every time, I need to fight something different to make it continue to feel fresh, which is what Dark Souls games have. They feel like they have hundreds of different enemies that you fight. Banishers has like 6, and you fight them over and over and over and over and over again over the course of 40 hours. Bad enemy variety.
I don't know why I never even thought about that. The creativity of the fuse in itself and how you tackle situations.
Yeah.
Oh my
and
gosh.
That's why in Tears of the Kingdom, I don't care that. So like there's like less than 10 different types of things that you fight commonly. And then they have different colors and different strengths and things like that. But like you'll fight Moblins and Bokoblins and the Lizalfos, primarily like 3 types of things that you fight, bats and slimes and shit. But you're always fighting them in different ways based on all these tools that you have. And you're encouraged to be creative, where it's like, yeah, I could rush into the camp and fight them, but they're standing around explosive barrels. Why would I not just shoot a bomb arrow in there and take them out? Or like the next time it's like, oh, there's a big rock on the hill above them. Let me try to push this rock and, smush them. So if it were a game where you approach combat the same way every single time, I would probably say bad enemy variety, combat is boring. But it couldn't be further from the truth in this game. So right, cool. I think that's how I come down on it.
And do you like that the enemies once in a while use fused items or weapons?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the implication of them maybe being able to use fuse, I don't like that, but it is cool. Anything that can mix it up. I mean, they posed no real threat to me. So like, hey, bring whatever you got. If you found a fused item on the ground, yeah, bring it over. Try it out. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, because then you also get to take their fuse items too. Like, oh, you made that flamethrower stick? Yeah. Let me have that, please.
It's I don't know. I don't want to say that like criticisms of these games don't have merit, because a lot of them do. There are things to criticize for sure, but like, I don't really care that I'm fighting Bokoblins for most of the game, because I'm never fighting them the same way. What I'm doing is never the exact same. So I don't really notice. They're just the thing that I'm doing all the stuff to. So
all my experimentation, that's you.
Yeah. Some of those torture devices that people put up, I saw like reels of people that were like, they built like fire torture devices. They built like they built like a rotating thing that like spanks them just over and over and over again. Like the creativity that people get. I'm not even fusing and building stuff, and I still feel satisfied by the variation in what I'm doing. Let alone the people that are like, let me build a transformer,
Yeah, if that's your thing, this game's going to keep you real busy.
Yeah. And the enemies are predictable too. So if you want to get super creative, you know how they're going to respond to most things. So yeah, good stuff. Anything else about the experience of playing the game?
So I think we haven't even talked about an entire other area that you can go to, which is, a big piece of this game. And I feel like this comes into it. So there's a nice cadence I feel like you're going to be most of your time is going to be spent on the main surface level. That's just kind of where all the meat of the game is. Mm-hmm. But there's a nice cadence of going up to the Sky Islands and then going down into the depths, which you'll see these giant holes in the ground. You're probably going to go investigate it because that's cool. And the nice part is you grab minerals down there to process these zonite orbs. And those then make you able to have your abilities, or not your abilities, your creations for longer. So it increases your battery level. So on top of your hearts and stamina, you have another thing to upgrade and another thing to farm for. And I like that you use every area of the map to do that.
Yeah. And then up in the Sky Islands, you find things that will help you brighten or better survive what's going on down in the depths. On the surface, you can find things to help brighten the depth so you can see better. You are definitely encouraged to explore all three areas. And again, this is one of the benefits, kind of returning to that like continuity within Nintendo. The fact that they didn't just like copy and paste the surface world of Breath of the Wild into Tears of the Kingdom. It's different, but it's like they didn't have to build a whole thing from scratch, you know? So because they didn't have to do that, now they have time and resources to make the Sky Islands and make the depths. And it turns out that this game is probably twice as big. It has twice as much explorable space as Breath of the Wild did. And you don't have to explore everywhere. So it's not like a burden that you have to like uncover everything on the map. I didn't explore most of the depths because I didn't like being down there because it's, you know, it's dangerous and it's spooky.
Dude, it has this great tone. It feels ominous down there. And I love the shift, especially if you're going, because you can, technical marvel that it is, you can jump from the Sky Islands all the way down into the depths and it just keeps going and it's great. But I love that it feels dark, dangerous, has a very different vibe down there. I love that you get different enemy varieties, a couple more bosses, which is cool too. But I like the idea of, it's almost like this fog of war of old maps. You're just slowly uncovering it as you go along.
Yeah, especially because on the surface, like you need to find the towers to unlock the map and like have it visible on your map screen. When you're down in the distance or down in the depths, it's so dark, you just straight up can't see in front of you. And you need to find these light route places to kind of illuminate the surrounding area. So it really does feel like a fog of war type of thing. Like you have to earn the right to know what the fuck is happening down there. You got to explore it. You feel like a prospector, like a surveyor or something. Like you are in uncharted territory down there.
Again,
trying
really
to figure it out.
Honing in on that adventure feel. You have very different gameplay styles all within this game, but they mesh so well. And I mean, I remember I had to force myself to do the main mission because the first 20 hours, I was just like, I'm just run from this place to this place. Oh, I can do this. I can do that. Now, I'm actually really curious about that for you because you said you played this right before you played Tears of the Kingdom. For me, the main map felt so much different. Like, I was like, and I also wanted to see how it changed, right? But you have a much more fresher take on that. Were you still as excited to explore Hyrule again?
You know, not as excited because I didn't know what would be there on the surface, but excited for a couple new reasons. Number one, like you said, time has passed and they did a good job of like selling that, designing things as if time had passed. So if you had a favorite place in Breath of the Wild, you can revisit it in Tears of the Kingdom and see what's different. Maybe you had a favorite village. Maybe you want to go just check out what's going on with the Gorons now. Like, you know, they're still there, but things are different. You can go check those out. And the other thing is like the way that you're interacting with the world is a little bit different.
Yeah.
The basics are still the same. I'm still going to climb up most stuff to solve most, you know, traversal challenges, but it is different enough that you're excited to use those new things, especially if you're really psyched about building, because they teach you about that in the tutorial. So if you're really psyched to be like, yeah, I'm going to build, I'm going to set a bunch of fans on like a wagon and just blow myself across the countryside. Like, you know, that's a new way of interacting with this world. So I was always excited, and the shrines are all different. You know, they use the new powers, most of them. So I was excited to find shrines again. So yeah, there was a little bit less of a surprise factor than the first time I played Breath of the Wild, of course, but I was no less interested in exploring.
Yeah. The one thing with me is I had not played Breath of the Wild since it basically launched. I've maybe dabbled a tiny bit for like footage reasons, but I've not played it. So the first time that I saw the two mountains next to each other with like the running cave, I was like, oh, I remember this. I remember that feeling of like, I want to go out there in the distance. And I still had that with this game, even though it's the same map. And I know a lot of people say that's a criticism, like, oh, it's just DLC. whatever, who cares about that? Because I don't
Fuck
agree
outta
with
here
it. I like that this game has that nice boost of, okay, let me see how these places are different. I'm still feeling this longing for a game I really enjoyed playing the first time. And I feel like this game does an even better job of distracting you from one point to the next, which is what I really like about. I mean, it's almost kind of what I come to these games for. I want to get through. Games. Yeah, I want the open world games. Yeah, it really does distract you, and I want to be distracted. Even though I want to get through the game, I like that. Yeah, first 20 hours, I was just minding my own business.
Yeah, I think both of these games did an incredible job of catching my eye with things that I was interested in. Shrines really pop when you're looking at, again, it's really cool the way you kind of survey the land this time. Instead of climbing a tower, you get shot out the top of a tower and skydive down. That moment, the first time that happened, that was a moment where I was like, oh, video games are so cool, man. So like shrines will pop, but you also just see stuff that looks interesting out there. It's one of the reasons why, like, this comparatively, these open worlds are, quote, empty. They're not full of they are full of stuff to do, but they're not full of like things saying like, hey, come over here, get a treat, get an upgrade point. I'm playing Ghost of Yotei right now, and I feel like I'm being pulled in every direction by like, there's a bamboo cut over there, and a bird just flew in front of my face. I should follow the bird. And this game is just like, it grabs your attention by saying, hey, doesn't this place look like a place that you would like to explore? And I'm like, yes, I would like to see what's going on over there. It all starts with just that like interesting visual design rather than, the shrines are one thing where it's like, hey, here's the shrine, go to the shrine, get your thing. But a lot of the other stuff is just pure like, hey, that mountain looks really weird. Like, what's going on with that mountain? The dueling peaks, like you said, I would like to climb to the top and see if there's anything up there. And, a lot of times there isn't anything up there, but you got to the top, you accomplished that thing. I thought that felt pretty good to do.
And you'll probably have a good vista to look out at, because my gosh, did I take a lot of background photos of horizons in this game. And it's so weird because when you look at it, it's not that like breathtaking of a game, but the art style and the color palette they chose, that watercolor effect, whatever it is, man, this game's going to just look gorgeous forever.
Yep. This is a triumph of art direction. Again, it beats visual fidelity every single time. Especially now on the Switch 2, like, art direction trumps visual fidelity, but also it doesn't hurt to get an upgrade to a better screen on the Switch 2, or upscaling to 4K if you play this on a TV now. It didn't look great on the Switch 1 on a TV blown up. This game looks crisp now, and that it helps. It's not everything. It still has to have good art direction, and this game does. So, like you said, I think like that moment, I think you can really just start with that moment the first time you pop out of one of those towers, and you get like this 360 panorama of the horizon, the landscape. You're up in the clouds. The music when you're skydiving down is really, really good. That it like all condenses it. It shows you like this is everything this game has.
Yeah, I feel like they do a really good job of pairing the musical cues in this game. Like we said in the very beginning, that steady increase of that ominous music as you're going down at the very, very beginning. And we didn't even talk about when you finish the tutorial, or no, it's almost when you're going down to the tutorial. Yeah. And it plays your title card. You have this bombastic orchestral cue. It's just like, oh yes, this is perfect. But yeah, I love the switch up of climbing the towers versus getting shot up. It's just it's a little nod, and also it's a really cool.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of goofy because Link has, not a Switch, but it looks like a Switch, like the device. And he's also just has like 1,000 foot of cable attached to him to like wire that device to the base of the tower. But the moment is still great. It's goofy. He's holding his Switch as he's skydiving, but the visuals and the music of it really sells like how cool this is. And then you get to look out at the landscape and be like, okay, shrine there, giant skeleton over there. I'm going to go check that out. And you're just like pinpointing places to go explore.
And again, it also uncovers the map, that fog of war thing from the Sky Islands to the mainland. It's just,
yes.
yes.
Consistently enticing you to find places to go poke around in. And then when you get there again, they don't care how you poke around. You have so many tools available to you. I wanted to just touch on the music a little bit more before I forget to. The primary credits on the soundtrack are Manaka Kataoka, Maasa Miyoshi, Masato Ohashi, and Tsukasa Usui. Good music, though, like you said, picks its spots. It accentuates moments. The title card drop is another great example of that. The main theme of Tears of the Kingdom has that same piano buildup that the Breath of the Wild theme did. But where Breath of the Wild's built up and then kind of like laid back down into like this nice, peaceful melody, music vocabulary is running out. The Tears of the Kingdom one, it has a more heroic theme right from the beginning. You get this big da 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 da, and yeah, it's happening as you're skydiving down from the Sky Islands. It's a moment when it happens.
It's so good. Oh man, I think what also elevates that is what you're talking about, where the empty spaces. I feel like you do need the empty spaces. You need the calm of you just like running across the landscape, because it helps with these moments. It makes them more effective. And I feel like this Breath of the Wild got some crap for that, but I think, again, that is the right choice with how they're building the world. Just like how they told the story in this unconventional way, you need the empty space. You need time to breathe.
Yes. I couldn't imagine playing these games and just having a looping melody playing as you're out in the open world. Can you imagine this? I love the Zelda themes, the da 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 da. Can you imagine if that song played on a loop as you're exploring this world?
Gosh.
It would be terrible. I haven't heard that criticism of like the musical identity of these games before, and it makes zero sense to me. These are lonely exploration games. You're out in the wilderness by yourself. It would not make any sense to have a big prominent looping melody going the entire time.
And my favorite thing about that is when let's say you're climbing a certain cliff or something, and you just get that like 7-8 notes of a piano and then it's gone.
Yep.
You're just like, oh, yes, give it to me again in like 7 minutes and I'll be great.
Mm-hmm. Or you'll just get like a really slow, like drawn out, like, I don't know, some woodwinds or some shit. I'm running out of music. But like the music is really, really laid back and reserved. And then, when you have big moments, when you have boss fights, then the music is like, oh, we're Zelda music. We're still awesome. We can still have bombast and all of that stuff. So it's great. And they bring back some motifs from old Zelda games too. Again, this is really, I'm really like fighting against my own stance that the Zelda timeline is dumb and unnecessary, but them bringing back old Zelda stuff helps like Zelda's Lullaby. Zelda's in this game, of course, but there is other stuff from other games, other motifs that you might hear. If you're a longtime fan and this is the end of the timeline, they're bringing back some of the hits.
Yep. And give me that little dose of nostalgia. I'm okay with it. I always hear that argument of whether people don't like this game or whatever, even Breath of the Wild, and they said, well, it wouldn't rate so high because it's a Zelda game. And I feel like that is such a just brushing everything away because you don't align with that. I mean, yes, you can't. If this game didn't have any of those Zelda references, it would still be fantastic. That's the thing that I don't understand. Yeah. Those are just like that little, that dessert that you eat every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to hear Zelda's Lullaby to enjoy the hell out of this game. That has almost nothing to do with it. It's, there is an argument to be said. If anyone out there is like, I like these games, but they don't feel like the identity of Zelda that I have in my heart. I get that.
Yeah.
That is something that I will like, I'll hear. I don't totally agree because these games are all about the adventure. That the series has primarily been about the adventure all the way back since the first game. So like that heart is still here. And like Link and Zelda as characters, they are Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf as characters. They are, pieces to build around, we'll say, rather than, characters that I care deeply for. There is like that long-term recognition of Ganondorf makes an appearance and I'm like, all right, I know what's up with him. He's been with me this whole time, that type of thing.
Living in here.
So like there is a bit of like, this doesn't feel like a Zelda game to me because the quote, a Zelda game was a very defined thing for a very long time up until Breath of the Wild, basically. And so I will hear that.
Yeah. And I think that's a good pivotal point, right? It's not, oh, game was only good because it's Zelda. No, this feels different from a Zelda. And that's totally true because Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and now Echoes of Wisdom do play a lot different than traditional Zeldas. Granted, the original Zelda was more like Breath of the Wild, right? I would say. And then Zelda 2 changed it up, and then we go from there. But there was a very long time period where it was, you are still the adventure, but how you tackle that adventure, we're going to set in front of you. And this one's more just changing that language a bit.
Yeah. The core of it, the heart of it, the adventure still feels Zelda to me.
You still get hearts.
You still pick up hearts. You still pick up rupees. You can find Tingle's clothes. So what's more Zelda than that?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess this is the point. We may have missed some stuff. We may pick them back up in the spoiler section, but this is like one of the biggest games ever. So there's some stuff we're just not going to touch on. This is the point where we, if we got closing thoughts, this is the time, but also we recommend the game. I'll say like, I think, if you love Breath of the Wild, obviously I think this is the easiest recommendation in the world, but is there anyone else that you would specifically recommend this game to?
I think somewhere in there you mentioned something about that immersive sim. So if that is your shtick, right? Your gameplay first, you want to mess with all the systems, tweak them to your liking. I think you're going to have a really good time with this game. And I think if you wanted a change in the Zelda formula, this is an easy recommendation in that regard because you still have that essence of Zelda in there. And I think if you're a new Switch owner, like you're a Switch 2 owner now, you should definitely check out this game.
Yeah. Part 2, I guess, just jumped into my head. Do you think people need to play Breath of the Wild before they play this? Oh. Maybe need is a strong word. Do you recommend they do that?
I mean, need is a strong word, but well, I guess, So you said you didn't have as much excitement exploring this world, right? Could you do the reverse? Would try and put your mind in that regard. If you played Tears of the Kingdom, would you still be excited to how it got to this stage?
From a story perspective, probably not. But I just think like if you didn't play Breath of the Wild and you're just like listening to us and you trust our opinions, if you're an hour and a half in here, I hope you trust us to a certain degree. Breath of the Wild is still an incredible game. So I would just recommend it based on that. There is like story continuity and it is cool to like, let's say you did a certain side quest in Breath of the Wild in a certain place, and then you can come back to that place in Tears of the Kingdom and see what's up. Like if that's appealing, I know there's some people that really loved some of those types of things in Breath of the Wild. And then you can see how time has changed those places in this game. So there is like that continuity aspect too. I just like, sometimes we ask this question from like a, will you not understand the story perspective? And I don't think that's the case here at all.
No, I think this game stands on its own. Even if it relies on some elements of Breath of the Wild, it definitely stands on its own in that regard. Yeah. I think I come down to you should, because I had a very not, I don't think it's a unique experience, but a unique experience for me when I returned to Hateno Village. I think that's how you say that word. For the first time. It's in this game, there's 2 mayors and there's like mushrooms everywhere and everybody's doing these fashion. There's a song cue that plays when you're there and you get to go see Zelda and Link's house. And I'm like, this feels like coming home to me. And I want somebody else to feel that. And Hateno Village just feels so homey. And I know people feel that way about Kiriko Village as well. So I want you to, random listener, to feel that. So play Breath of the Wild and then play this game.
It's also interesting to see the iteration on the mechanical stuff. All those new things that we've talked about, they build on what Breath of the Wild started. So I think it really just comes down to like, hey, Breath of the Wild's an awesome game. Play it if you have an extra 100 hours before you start this nearly 100-hour game. These are very long games.
Yes, they are. And I do think they're worth the time investment for somebody who values his time. I will say another caveat to that whole thing, or not a caveat, a boon. There's a part of me that misses that whole stasis power. So that would be cool to experience. You know, you get bombs, which are also cool. They're not, but you have bombs and everything. You can make anything a bomb in this game, I feel like. But that is another reason to look forward to playing Breath of the Wild. And there's a specific enemy type that's no longer in Tears of the Kingdom, but I think it makes it challenging. And without spoilers, I think the end dungeon in Breath of the Wild is very magical to me.
Oh,
I think
it's one of the best end dungeons ever. Yeah.
Okay, so so there you go. You should play Breath of the Wild. There you go.
Yep. And yeah, this is fantastic. I think we covered it there. Recommended for a lot of people. Really just like, you know, if you're a diehard old school Zelda fan and you really want that old formula, this is not that. So
no,
just with that in mind.
But for somebody who loves that old formula, I think this is my favorite Zelda game. So there you have it.
Hey, that speaks for itself right there. One of these days, I'm going to have to, you know, make another tier list or something about the Zelda games and rank them up. This will be way up at the top. I loved it a lot. So you mentioned there just now that this game respects your time and is worth your time. So that is a big part of the inception of Bits of Time. There's a segue for you. So let's talk about the stuff that you do. You're the host of Bits of Time along with your brother. Please tell people about the podcast and about the YouTube channel.
So Bits of Time, yep, like you said, it is me and my older brother. So we have that chemistry. I've known him my entire life. That's good and bad. We don't always like the same things, but we found a nice cadence. The YouTube and podcast are basically 90% different now, which is really cool. So the inception that Larry wanted for the podcast when I convinced him to come along was we want it to be like you're just walking into a conversation. And that's what the vibe we're trying to go for. And YouTube is more RPGs and retrospectives and all these little fun little shorts and just trying to make some lists and stuff. And just recently, time of recording, and when I think this will be out, we did a bunch of Halo content, and I'm a big Halo head, another game that maybe David doesn't even know I talk about before. So another thing to add to the list. So do check us out. You can find us on Blue Sky. You can just search Bits of Time into YouTube or podcasts of your choice.
Yeah, absolutely. The podcast is really good. You say it's like, you know, you want to have that you walked into a conversation feel. I don't want people to get the idea that it's just YouTube bullshitting about like whatever you want to talk about that day. It's very like you're talking about usually one specific game that you played, or something like that.
It's very structured, but the banter between us, because we've known each other our whole lives,
right?
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's good podcast. And then the YouTube channel, it is cool. I try to do that a little bit. I don't have time to separate podcast and YouTube, so
it's a lot
of work. So shout out to you for the new stuff going up on the YouTube channel. Most recently that I saw, because we're recording this, you know, before it's going to come out, because we're recording this, you know, well before it's going to release. I saw it was a Breath of Fire 4 retrospective
really
game
cool.
I'm very interested in.
As of time of recording, I believe that's our second most viewed long form video, which is super cool. It's at like 35,000 views. It's gotten really cool people just sharing their memories of the game. It's really awesome to see.
Awesome. Love that. I love to see that for you guys too.
Thank you.
Definitely recommend that anyone here check out Bits of Time, whether you want the podcast or whether you want the YouTube stuff. I'll put links down in the show notes so you can easily find it. While we're in the spoiler break, you can go find some stuff to queue up and save. It'll be worth your time for sure. And I did my plugs at the top of the show. The last one is the Discord server where first and foremost, we're just a community of people like to hang out, talk about games and, other stuff too. We're not just games and stuff. I do feel like a lot of us are genuinely friends in there. And then the other thing, I do want to shout this out because it's coming up, is we're going to be starting our backlog resolutions for 2026. And the 2025 version has been a lot of fun. We had a lot of people join, and I'm looking forward to doing the same thing next year. We'll begin that probably at the end of December, and then we'll really start. We'll lock in our lists at the beginning of January. There will be a podcast episode about that too. But just for now, if you're interested in making a list and you got those games in your library sitting on your shelf behind you that you're like, man, I need a reason to play that game. Well, this might be that reason. And it's given us a chance to play a bunch of cool stuff. Michael's been a part of the backlog resolutions. I think we've had a good time.
Yeah. Don't put too many RPGs on your list because you might not make it through it.
Words of the wise. Yeah.
I've done it 2 years in a row. I'll probably do it on the third, but I'm going to be better.
Oh yeah. Do we learn our lessons? Absolutely the fuck not, but we have fun doing it. So that will be the plug. So there's an invite link for the Discord down in the show notes as well. So with that being said, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, it's going to be full spoiler time for Tears of the Kingdom. All right, before we get to full spoiler time for Tears of the Kingdom, a few quick announcements about guest appearances that I did and the customary thank yous. A reminder that I am on the Geeks and Grounds podcast for the month of December as we continue our talk through Final Fantasy X. In December, we'll be covering the second half of the game, so make sure you check out the Geeks and Grounds podcast. And I was on Pixels and Polygons recently, talking about an average game that I love. What game did I pick, and what makes it average? Well, if you want to know, you're going to have to listen to the Pixels and Polygons podcast. I'll put links to both of those guest appearances down in the show notes so you can easily find it. Please check them out. They're good times. And as always, I'd like to say thank you to the wonderful patrons who help support the show. A big thank you and shout out goes out to Chris Nelson, Zulgeek, Chris Copleen, Eric Guess, Rick Firestone, Nick Vicori, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Stefan, Drellish, Rigamort, Silcanet, Levi, John E., Aliasi, Joseph Hooper, Yorkie Duval, Aaron, Squill, Alan Kress, Doug T., Retro Overdrive, One of Many Tots, Magic Crow, and many more. Thank you all for your support. It means a lot to me, and it really helps me out in more ways than you know. If anyone out there would like to join them, you can do so at patreon.com/realdavejackson. I've got some cool bonus stuff coming up for patrons at the end of the year and going into 2026, so keep your eyes peeled. And until then, thanks again. With all of that being said, let's get back to full spoiler time for The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Okay, we're back. It's full spoiler time for The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. The normal spoiler section disclaimers are in effect. Number one, we're not going to talk about everything. Too big a game to do that. And number two, we are not going to go in a chronological walk through the game. It's a nonlinear game, but we might talk about the ending very quickly. I'm not going to make us wait till the end of the show to talk about the final boss fight, for example. So Please finish the game if you don't want to be spoiled. All right, moving on. So let's start with those 4 areas around the map, the 4 regional phenomena, the NPCs that you meet, and the temples. We don't have to talk about all of them, but
Yeah.
if there's one that jumps out at you as your favorite, which one would it be?
So definitely my favorite is the water temple. But I think there's 2 temples that showcase what we were talking about with the lead up to the temples is part of the journey. And it
So
really
yours would be water and wind then, I'm guessing?
Oh, look at you. Yes, you are correct. Those lead ups are just so epic to me. And there's something about the water temple specifically. I talked about like coming home to certain areas in this game. The Zoro domain, I always like the Zoros in any of the Zelda games, and going back to this location again, even though it's different from last time, getting to that fountain area, and also seeing, I can never remember his name, that weird prince guy. You know, he's fun.
Oh, Zidon?
That sounds right, but also sounds wrong, but I don't know.
Zelda, anyone not named Pura or Zelda in this game, I don't know what their name is, just straight up.
He's fun. He brings a nice charm to it. That temple of piecing together, okay, you have to go up to this fish-looking island in the Skylands, and you have to shoot an arrow through this teardrop structure to then unlock this lower area, and then you shoot up into the Sky Islands, and it's just beautiful. And they have this awesome slowdown mechanic where you can jump really far and slowly, and then, of course, I love taking my pictures of the horizon up there. I don't love the boss fight, but that whole temple was just a fun experience for me.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't remember much of the temple or the boss fight. I remember the boss fight being kind of weird.
Bad Splatoon.
I'll take your word for it. I straight up don't remember it. It was 2 years ago when I did that. What I do remember is the Zora's domain being all gunked up. And I think that part of the reason that both of these stick out to us as like notable run-ups to the thing and temples in general is because they both involve going up into the sky and doing sky stuff. The Goron one and the Gerudo one are just the surface. And yeah, just the surface. You don't go to the depths for either of those. So you have the thing with this one where you're like, you find the fish island and you do that stuff to like release the water to clean out the gunk and all that shit. And then in the one with the sky, the wind temple, which is my favorite one, you have just this epic, you start, if I remember right, you start on the ground and you make your way up to like your starting island, and then you just go up this like spiral of islands, up and up and up and up and up. You find out that the temple is inside of this like tornado, hurricane, whatever, like up in the sky.
Persistent storm up there, which is such a cool idea. And then you get up to that point where you're bouncing up on these sails of these ships that are up there, and you get up over like the eye of the storm, and you get to look down and dive into that.
Yep.
So freaking cool, man.
Super cool. And the music is really good in this part too, because when you're at that lower level of the Sky Islands, when you're doing that climb, you do like it's really calm and reserved still. It's normal music for this game.
Yeah, because you have that snowy area that you're climbing up to even get to that. So you have a very nice ratchet of that. So that's like 1A, 1B for me, man.
Right. And then as you go further and further, the music gets more and more involved. And by the time you're diving into that storm, it's epic as shit. And
it's so good.
Like the dungeon itself, the Wind Temple, is not a special dungeon. Like I barely remember. It's a ship. So you're like moving through different parts of the ship. And I remember a part where you're on the outside of the ship on like the giant, oars, and you got to jump back in through the holes in the side. And like, it's really cool. But I think really the lead up to it really set it up to be that special, memorable thing.
And I think what I really like about this game, Breath of the Wild kind of did this, where you're looking out at the landscape and you can see the divine beasts, like the salamander one crawling across Death Mountain, right? In this game, you see this giant storm out there. You turn left and you see like a giant cube over there, or you see like a sphere just floating in the island, and you just, oh, it's so good.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what happened to the divine beasts. I didn't think about that. Like, they didn't, did they? No, they didn't like disappear at the end of Breath of the Wild. I don't think.
That's a good point. Maybe they disassembled them. They don't no
Maybe
longer need them.
Maybe they retired and they went to live on a farm somewhere.
They went down a hole, found it all the way to Termina from Majora's Mask or whatever.
Wouldn't it be crazy if you were like exploring in the depths and you found like the skeleton of one of the divine beasts?
That would be
like
cool.
In disrepair. Not saying you have to like bring them back to life, but like if you just found it, like they decommissioned the elephant one and put it down in the depths.
Use the trunk as a slide for kids at a playground.
Ooh.
That'd be great, you know?
Yeah,
I think in the where you meet Pura, I forget what the town is called, like the meeting point town.
Yeah.
There,
Lookout Landing. Yeah.
Thank you. I think there is like a decommissioned guardian, like powering something up on there, or it looks like a miniature one. So at least they have that little nod, but it is weird. Again, you don't, come across any of those things.
Well, if I was in charge of all the cleanup after the events of Breath of the Wild, I would have been like, you're destroying all the guardians. Them shits are not coming back to life.
That's a very logical answer.
Not on my dump them down in the depths.
Yeah.
Hey, that big hole opened up. Let's throw our trash in there. That would be something that happens in real life.
Yep. There you go. Very logical.
I also like the fire temple. And I like, that's probably like the only story of like the species around it that really stuck out to me. Cause I think it's kind of funny, that the Gorons got like addicted to eating these rocks. And so nobody's working anymore because they're all just like, give me them rocks.
Yeah. Like the Zoras are dealing with pollution. The Rito is, frozen. Just
the Gerudo have a mummy outbreak on their hands.
Yeah, so like a plague, and the Gorons just want to eat,
And then the Fire Temple was the one, I kind of hinted at it earlier, where like I feel like I skipped 15 to 20% of the temple because I just climbed up the walls instead of doing whatever it was that it asked me to do, which like, I don't know, if the game's going to let me climb up the walls, I'm going to try climbing up the if like I see a thing and I'm like, that's going to be a whole ordeal to try and figure out. I wonder if I can just climb up around it. And the answer was yes, you can just climb up around it.
Yeah, I did it where I also climbed those towers and I tried to get as close to the wall as possible. And I just searched with ascend as I was walking around, and I ended up ascending and getting to the top and then diving right down. It was great. And I love that the game allows you to do that. And I do think the minecart was a strange choice for the Fire Temple, but it worked at the same time. I was happy about it.
I liked the minecart stuff leading up to the Fire Temple when you are like riding the minecarts and like shooting the Goron guy off of it. That was fun.
I like that ability quite a bit. We haven't even talked about the abilities. We're talking about the temples,
I guess we saved those for spoilers. Did you have a favorite of I guess there's 5 of the NPCs?
I would say I really like the lightning blast. One, it's the radius can go so wide. And like you alluded to in the beginning, having the shock drop weapons is just a godsend. I loved it.
It's just a great way to start a fight. If it's like you versus, 11 enemies, it's just a great way to start because like you'll shock them. The weak enemies will probably die in one hit. Other enemies might drop their weapon. It might set stuff on fire. Like it just kind of sets all this chaos in motion and then you can go from there. I liked that one. I liked the Goron guy because he's basically a reusable bomb.
Yep.
Useful in combat also. The Rito guy, they can do like the wind gust. I never used that. And
really?
Yeah, never.
Even traveling?
Nope. I never felt like I
either
never felt like I needed it. I don't remember, like, I'm sure there were situations when it would have been nice, but I must have just done something else, which is.
And what I would use them in combat too, where you shock the enemies, they drop their weapons, and you gust those away from the enemies, so they're just like scrounging for nothing.
That's a cool idea. Yeah.
Dude, man, that's so crazy that we played the same game and we had very different experiences from time to time. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this is all about. I didn't use the Zora one very often. Like sometimes I would be fighting something really hard and be like, I could use a little buffer, but I didn't very often. The one I'm most curious about is the last one you get, the mech. Did you use that?
Not as much as I thought I would. And I think it
Yeah.
comes down to the cadence of the speed of the attacks, basically, where I feel like you attach this giant spike ball on an arm. I feel like it's going to kill these macablins really quickly, but it doesn't. So
Yep.
I like the concept. I like that you can traverse, the depths a little bit safer, but I didn't use it as much as I thought I would.
I would say its primary use for me was just walking over the gloom on the ground without, fucking up my hearts. You're right. Like, it's weirdly underpowered. Like, you would think that attaching a spike ball to the end of it would just waste some of these basic enemies, but it kind of doesn't. It does get into that goofy, it's like a cartoony, like, stun animation where like they'll like, it's like an old timey cartoon where someone gets punched and their head like goes whap, whap, whap from side to side. Like the enemies do that when you hit them with that stuff. It's kind of funny, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. So anytime you're like, man, this enemy's really tough, let me jump on the mech and bash it with a metal spike ball. Like it just doesn't work the way you want it to. I never tried attaching lasers or like rocket launchers to it. So maybe
I was just about to say that's my caveat. I did put like dual guns on it and that does wreck and it's pretty cool. That's fun.
Yeah. Like when you get it, there's that boss fight in a boxing ring. It's kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Where like they basically show you all the different things you can do in this mech suit or while riding it. And it, like I did that and I was like, it doesn't feel great. I think I'm just gonna use it as like, a way to cross the dangerous gloom. That's it.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that though. I think it's really cool, just the concept of it and all that and how it ties into the story. That's pretty cool.
Dude, the moment when you first get it, when it's like, yeah, hop on the back of it and ride this mech thing. I was like, oh boy, I thought I knew. I thought I knew what was going on in this game. Now I have a mech to ride around. Awesome.
I don't think I talked to you about this, but when I was visiting my buddy down in Atlanta, like my best friend that I grew up with, he was at like the very end of this game. He's like, oh, I still haven't beat it. I was like, all right, I'm only here for like 36 hours, but we're going to beat it. So I watched him play the ending and he's like, wait, there's a fifth person? So he had never unlocked that, the spirit temple, quote unquote. There's a lot towards the end of the game, which they kind of throw at you. And you have to kind of piece it together on how to get there, which is interesting. They don't like blatantly tell you.
Yeah. So you had the spirit temple quest, which was pretty involved. Lot of stuff to do. And then you have the quest to get the master sword, which I'm not positive if you have to do that. I mean, I can't imagine playing this game and not getting the master sword. Like, why are you playing Zelda if you're not trying to get the master sword,
I'm pretty sure there's probably a speedrunner that can just go straight to the end of the game if they wanted to. So I don't know if it actually needs it to unlock something, but I don't know how that works actually.
I'm not sure. Should have looked it up. But as I said, I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy who played a game talking about it. So anyway, I did the Master Sword quest, of course, and I did the Spirit Temple quest. There's a lot of stuff going on. I had to look at a guide. The Master Sword quest, I just couldn't intuit what it was trying to tell me. That basically, like in my memory, they tell you a riddle, and the answer to the riddle is there's a dragon flying around, and that's where the Master Sword is. It was something like that I just couldn't figure out by myself.
I feel like that's pretty obvious when if you get the memory, when you get the memories and you know that Zelda is going to take the secret stone, eat it, and become the dragon. So you're like, oh, well, there's a white dragon floating around. That kind of makes sense.
There's a distinct possibility that I picked that up early. This is also something I'm not sure about. I know that they don't give you the story things in a particular order.
Correct.
Like I don't think that I think that you could pick that up early, the one that shows Zelda eating the stone. I don't actually, that might be a thing that you get after you find the 12 memories. Like it might just be like the next step type of thing. Anyway, what I was really trying to say is that people may listen to this podcast and assume that I'm like intelligent. And I do think I talk intelligently from time to time on the show, but that does not mean I take cues during video games on what I should be doing and where I should be going. Cause you were like, it was obvious. And I'm like, it probably was. I'm just, I'm not very observant a lot of times. So I had to look up how to get the masters. I went back to the Korok forest where the master sword was in the first game. And I did that whole thing because I was, the master sword. Yeah, I know where that is. And it's not there. Of course it's not there.
What happened?
This is not the same game.
If it makes it feel better, my wife says I'm not very observant in real life. So, give and take, choose your battles.
I'm not very observant in video games, but am I in real life? I'll never tell. You'll have to hang out with me to find out. So the Master Sword quest involves you tracking down this dragon that's flying around. That is Zelda. What's revealed is that in the past, she fought in the imprisoning war. That thing that happened at the beginning when she disappeared into the darkness, I left out a detail. She doesn't disappear into the darkness. She pulls out a stone and winks out of existence in a flash of light. So what she did is she traveled back to the past.
To the first
she sought
king.
their help. Yeah, she sought their help to repair the Master Sword. She met the first king of Hyrule, and she fought against Ganondorf in the imprisoning war, and they lost. Big theme with these two games is, big confrontations. They lose, they have to regroup, power up, and try again. So what this eventually turns into is they lose the fight. She realizes, here's a way that I can kind of like hold the Master Sword for Link in the future. She eats the stone and turns into a dragon. And she's been flying around above Hyrule this whole time.
So basically the concept is the Master Sword is broken. It would take so long to recover. It needs a bunch of energy. So she knows, she's like, okay, this is the way I could repair the Master Sword and give it to Link in the future. And I think that's, one, it's such a sad idea. Like she has to lose herself and then become this creature. And that's what all the dragon's tears are. Tears of the Kingdom. Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, she's like that. This is the dawn of Hyrule. And she's been like that for, I don't even know how long.
Yeah. So this is a time travel story. I do not know if it holds up against scrutiny with, timelines and butterfly effects. And if Zelda's a dragon this whole time, how is she also walking down under the castle with Link? I don't give a shit if those things hold up to scrutiny. It's just what it is. This is a Zelda story. I'm along for the ride. I'm not emotionally invested in this story. I do think it's cool to have her go into the past, talk to the original founders, fight the imprisoning war, and lose and all of those things. I think it's cool, but this is not a story where I'm going to be doing like Cinema Sins type shit here.
I think the thing I come away with it is this game's story is good to serviceable, depending on how you look at it, but it has such high moments. Just like in Breath of the Wild, there's a few key memories that I really loved. Like the first time he's like fighting against the Guardian and like basically dying, but he's going to protect Zelda. Oh, so freaking good. But this game has those moments for me upscaled way more often. And again, like you said, I don't need I can suspend a little disbelief with time travel or anything. It works for me. I'm there also like, fusing together a bunch of trees together and climbing up a hill. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Like suspension of disbelief, we've already crossed that line pretty early in the story. So I don't really care. None of this is real. None of it is ever supposed to be real. So
yeah. And I like the idea, the device of you putting the Master Sword, like it's floating up and then it disappears and it goes back to her. And then she uses it back in the ancient past. That's a cool idea. I like that little tidbit. Yeah.
It's cool to uncover this story of what Zelda has been up to. And then the whole thing where you have to go find the dragon and then you have to like jump down onto it and then just like the old game, the other game, you have to have a certain number of hearts to like pull it out of the hair that's been binding it up and healing it, I guess. And then you get the Master Sword. So
this one uses stamina, though,
there's
right?
also, it's either stamina or hearts. One of those you have to have a certain amount of.
Yeah, I think in Breath of the Wild it was hearts, and this one's stamina. I was like, oh, I see what they did here.
Could be, yeah. So there's also this other storyline going on where like you're trying to figure out where Zelda went, but there is a Zelda that's going around the world and like, you know, not like doing evil things per se, sometimes doing evil things, but like doing things that like Zelda wouldn't do that, you know? Why wouldn't Zelda come talk to me? You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the first time you see her, she like floats away and you're like,
she floats up to the castle. Yeah. You're like, okay, I don't think Zelda can float. Not positive, but I don't think so. So you kind of follow that mystery. You find out that that's a projection from Ganondorf, basically, to sow chaos and stuff around the world so he can make his return. And then we get to, you want to talk about moments. We got the last, you've got two kind of final dungeons.
Yeah.
In a way. There's the one where you go through Hyrule Castle as it's floating in the sky.
So cool, man.
They just like Hyrule Castle turning it into the dungeon that you do at the end of the game. It's worked in both games really well. And it's another one of those where like there's a lot of rooms, there's a lot of interior spaces. You don't have to like go through all of them and fight all the enemies that they've laid out. You can climb walls, you can build stuff, you can just do whatever you can ascend through the bottom of stuff, do what you got to do, and then you fight Phantom Ganon in there. So that's a cool dungeon. Music fucks as always. And then the final one, you go underground to the same place where that prologue chapter took place. I love when games do this. Take me back to that place where the game started. And now you have the ability to bust open the rocks that were hiding those other parts of the mural that show the imprisoning war. And they showed that Zelda was there the whole time. So that's
so
awesome.
Cool. So cool.
You have the last showdown with Ganondorf down here.
I think what I like about it is, again, they have that musical build. So like you see where you have to go and you jump down into this open space. You're like, all right, what's going to be at the bottom? I know I'm going to Ganondorf, but I want to see like where he's housed at. And I love that ratcheting up suspense. And also right before that, it's cool that you see the torch that Zelda was carrying or Link was carrying at the very beginning of the game. It's just laying there on the floor. I was like, yay. Mm-hmm. Connecting the dots.
Dude, you just reminded me. The way that you get to this final section is you go down in the depths and there's another pit that goes even deeper down that you jump into. I was like, oh, okay, so I'll just jump in the hole under Hyrule Castle. That's where Ganon's going to be hanging out. It's actually much, much deeper than that. You just like keep going down and down and down these other ruins and stuff like that to get to the eventual showdown.
And what I like about that, it's basically Ganondorf went down there to recover and send out the gloom. So that's where he's powering up. And the gloom's kind of like almost like a protection against him, right? So nobody comes to him. And I was like, man, they really thought this through with like, all right, gloom affects this. It protects Ganondorf. He's going to get stronger. That's why he can't come out and kill you right now. Man, love it. Love it.
Phase 2 of the final boss fight is a one-on-one duel with Ganondorf. Kind of, there's Phantom Ganons around. You don't want to like find yourself fighting everyone and Ganondorf at the same time, but you're like your buddies will take care of them, keep them distracted for the most part. So it's you versus Ganondorf. This is a one-on-one sword fight. This is one of those things where it's like, I don't think that this game is good at one-on-one sword fights. But they do enough in this fight to make it cool enough where I'm not like, this sucks.
Okay,
this combat system's not, this is not, Devil May Cry, this is not. But
No.
like there's enough in that fight to lift it, I feel like.
Oh my gosh, the first time you go to attack him and he does the flurry rush back to you, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this so much right now. One, I love Ganondorf. You know, Ganon's in every Zelda game for the most part. There might be like one or two that he's not.
Yeah.
But Ganondorf is not in every game, and I almost wish he was. He's that tied to make it one. It feels like a more one-to-one Link versus somebody that's compatible, and they really showed it with that. Like, oh, he has your techniques too. All right, this is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I really like his design in this game. I think he looks really cool, very samurai-like.
Yep.
Voiced
Looks
by
very good.
Matt Mercer,
Matthew
I believe.
Mercer.
Yeah, Matthew. Yeah.
Yep.
I love me some Ganondorf.
Yep. A lot of people like this particular iteration of Ganondorf with all his muscles and stuff like that.
Oh, Ganon Daddy.
He's very cool. Yeah, Ganon Daddy. The ultimate iteration of him, like his second phase when his hair gets like bright red and stuff like that.
Cool, man. Oh my God. Like, I don't know. He's just like, oh, I'm going to power up. And his health bar just fucking keeps going. Like, it's so good, dude.
It goes off the screen. It's really, this is not a series that like plays with those gamey, UI elements and stuff like ever. The one time that they chose to do that, to just be like, oh shit, the screen is not big enough to contain his health bar. I thought that was really good.
It was so awesome. Plus, the fiery red hair. And I think there's at one point in the battle when you start doing more damage, it cuts to him and he's just like motioning you to come at him again without any words. I'm like, oh, this is my shit right now.
It's very good. The fight doesn't get much more interesting after that point. But like we said, these other elements raise it up a little bit. You do get into like flurry rush back and forths with him.
And I feel like because I didn't rush to him right away, and he does a lot of different like gloom attacks, which I thought was interesting. So at least they have that balance.
He does have some spells.
And I do like, we didn't even talk about it, when you're in the Hyrule Castle up there doing that first phase boss fight, when you're going against the phantom ones, and then the entire floor turns into gloom. I was like, oh, this is a little bit more challenging too. So I like that they at least put the gloom elements into the boss fights. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely like it. This is something I like about it. I definitely felt like I needed to prep and bring items. We barely talked about cooking because I said I didn't want to explain it, but like you do need to prepare. Like you need special gloom resistant or gloom healing items and foods and potions and stuff like that. So there were some items that I picked up. I want to say Midna's helmet was a mainstay for me because it was gloom resistant.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
I also like the one that's just all lights because he looks like just a freak. He's got this like horse mask on with all these dangly lights. It's great.
Ooh, I must have missed that one. That's weird. So as far as like old items, like callbacks to old stuff, I picked up the Twilight Princess tunic. I picked up Midna's helmet, which I wore a lot. And then I picked up the Fierce Deities set, which I didn't wear because I wanted the gloom resistant stuff. And I could just like drink a potion if I wanted more attack or something like that. But I did pick up some of those things. I picked up the Dark Link outfit also. But I know there's a lot more that I didn't find.
Yeah, same. I actually never found the Fierce Deity, and that's one of my favorite forms of Link, so I'm kind of jelly that you had it and didn't even wear it, so whatever. That's okay, though.
Yeah. And before you ask, no, you can't borrow it. I need it.
I remember watching my buddy play this fight, and obviously he had taken a little break, so he was kind of getting used to it all again, but he was just screaming at Gandalf. He's like, what the heck? How is he hurting me so much? I was like, got to come prepared, really man. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one other criticism, to just take a pause from the final boss fight real quick. I really don't like what they did with the great fairies in this game. You cannot access them early. You have to like do an extra quest for each one. Usually involves finding a missing musician and then taking them to the great fairy. I didn't like those quests. I don't mind the, like, usually it's like a puzzle of this musician is stuck somewhere and you got to
Yeah.
like build a hot air balloon to get him out or some shit. And then rebuild their wagon, take them to the Great Ferry. I didn't like doing that every single time. I just wanted to upgrade my armor. And then upgrading your armor takes so much stuff that
Yeah.
I felt pretty not underpowered offensively, but defensively going into the final boss. I was like, well, I'm just going to die in 4 hits. I'll just try to flurry rush everything. And I did it because it's not that hard to flurry rush Ganondorf in the end. So anyway, that's one thing where it's like, oh, the passage of time, this is different the way it used to be, but I don't like it in this game.
Gotcha. I can see where it becomes more of a nuisance, but I think if you're doing all the exploring, you most likely have a decent amount of resources, but there are some that are very specific to each armor set that you want to upgrade and stuff. I do like the collecting of Down in the Depths, the pose. I like that exchange. That's fun.
Yeah. I didn't mind. I mean, it feels kind of like a, here, have a treat, collect 700 of something when you're down there, just mashing the A button, picking everything up. But I didn't mind exchanging them for stuff. I thought that was cool. I'm pretty sure you can exchange pose for, like, if you sold something on accident, you can exchange pose and like get it back, like an armor piece or something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that was nice. I want to say also, like, you can pick up a Helion shield. It's a treasure underneath Hyrule Castle. And it's a really, really good shield, but it can break permanently, unlike the Master Sword. And if it breaks permanently, you can buy a new one with pose, which is nice.
That is nice. Good job, Poe.
One other criticism, since we're just in the middle of the final boss fight, here's the things I didn't like about the game. I forgot to mention this earlier. I mentioned a long time ago now that it's good that the game basically never funnels you in a certain direction.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would have funneled you toward the glider at the beginning of the game. You drop down from the Sky Islands. You can like kind of see civilization. And I think they were like, okay, well, they're going to see that and they're going to go to Lookout Landing first because they see it right away. And I didn't. I turned and went the other direction because it's this game. This is, you set free and you explore anywhere you want to. And so I didn't get the glider for like 5 hours or so. And I got to a point where I was like, I must have missed something. And I had to Google where to get the glider. And it was like, go to the first town. I really wish they would have just dropped you into the town from the beginning or something like that to get you the glider, or give you the glider up in the Sky Islands. I don't care. Just don't let me miss it. It's too integral to the game to have you walk the other way, I feel like.
So the problem with giving you the glider at the top, right, is they want you to jump off and do that dive.
And do the title card.
And just land straight into that pond. Like, they want that moment.
Yeah. Okay, I get that.
Yeah, and if they dropped you right in the town, you wouldn't have that Breath of the Wild, like, getting up over the horizon and looking around. So I understand why they didn't do it, and they kind of point you in the right direction. But yeah, you could do a Dave and wander around aimlessly without your glider pen, friend.
Hey, I've played Metroid. I know that when the game says to go right, you try to go left first.
True.
So there we go. Just a thing where I was like, I feel like they should have pushed me into getting the glider and then said, okay, off you go, wherever you want to go. So
I feel like you're on the low percentage of people that affects. But it's probably still a warranted criticism, Dave. It's okay.
We talked about my observance and situational awareness already. So the final boss fight, phase 3, is against the demon dragon.
Dude, the way he aggressively rips off the secret stone and then shoves it down his throat is awesome. It's so just horrifying, but cool at the same time.
Yeah, real last resort type of move. I guess he learned from Zelda that eating one of the stones will turn you into a dragon.
He's got the time to sit there and think up all the possibilities,
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that more than 2 people didn't eat the stones and turn into dragons when we say it like that. Or the Goron. I mean, Gorons eat rocks all the time. Why didn't they eat the stone?
Well, thankfully there's only like 5 of them or 6 of them, something like that. So,
yeah, right.
rare commodity.
Anyway, he turns into a dragon, flies up in the sky, and you have this, the end of Breath of the Wild, the final boss was, you had to do the thing, but it was really easy, very hard to die in it, although you can. It was kind of like you play through the final cutscene, basically. This one's a little bit more involved than that, but I think the only way that you could die in this, because it takes place in the air, you can't fall to the ground. Zelda in the dragon form will come catch you. So I think the only way you could die is if you like get hit by too many, energy blasts from the demon dragon. So basically, unless you're trying to, I don't think you're going to have trouble, like from a difficulty standpoint. And it's just he's got these 4 things on his back that you have to go destroy. And then eventually you'll get to a point where like every time he bucks you off and you glide down, Zelda comes and catches you, but you'll have to dodge out of the way of stuff that he's shooting at you. And it's a really cool spectacle, if not like a real challenge. And yeah, then at the end you get to his head and you stab the Master Sword through his forehead, which is very good.
We've talked about, or I've mentioned a lot of the times, just looking out at the horizon, right? So this game does a nice job of when you look out somewhere, most likely you're going to have a good scenery you're rewarded with a good scenery, right? I think what this game has very few moments of this, but right before this fight starts, you have Zelda in the foreground and you have the mean demon dragon in the just looming over you, and it seems like this insurmountable task, but you guys are working together, and it's such a nice start to the battle. And this is more spectacle, but man, did I feel like, oh my gosh, this is ratcheting up the intensity, and everything is just working together. I came off the high of that Demon King form of Ganondorf. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool too. So
it is super cool. They do sell the scale of everything, and it's fitting to have the final boss be in the sky when so much of this game is about skydiving, being up in the air, being in the sky islands and things like that. So it's really cool. Above all, it's just cool. And a final boss fight, it doesn't always have to be the hardest challenge in the game. You've already overcome phase 2, I think, was like the combat challenge of the game. And then phase 3 is like, all right, just fucking enjoy this. This is going to be awesome. So,
and it really is
cool. Yeah. The cinematography of this ending stuff is really great too. After you defeat the demon dragon, there's a point where like Link hops off, the Zelda dragon catches him. He does like this cool landing, and like I got this awesome screenshot of like Link like looking cool riding the dragon. The demon dragon's exploding in the background. There's like this red sunset in the back. It's badass.
It's so good.
And then because of all this, Zelda turns back into a person, but you're up in the air. So she's free falling unconscious, and you dive after her, and you're in like the normal like skydiving gameplay. Hold R1 to dive straight down, pencil style. And you got to chase after her and catch her. And one of the things at the beginning, when Zelda was falling into the darkness before she used the thing to time travel back to the past, Link like reached and grabbed her and couldn't hold her, and she fell. And so they bring that back. It's a big moment at the end. Link reaches down trying to catch her, and you do grab her and like bring her safely to the ground that time. Another way that they call back to the beginning, like in a way that like you might have forgotten about because it may have been hours or years since you saw that opening cutscene. So I'm glad I replayed the opening to get ready for this show just to see that again.
Yeah, and they have that bombastic like main theme going on as you're falling and trying to catch up to Zelda, and it is that circular moment of you're going back to the beginning of the game. I didn't even think about it. Yeah, this game needed the last boss to be up in the sky. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it, because you went from,
For that moment.
the very depths, and then you went to the sky. So it really is full circle in that regard. Hyrule Castle was floating up in the sky at the very beginning of the game. There you go. I think this is one of my favorite endings for a Zelda game, because one, it had those multi-phase boss battles, which I love. Some people do not like that, but I really love that. And I feel like having it call back to the beginning of the game really sold it for me. And one, it's just about Zelda and Link right there at the very end. They get that special little moment.
100%. The reunion is really good. And like earlier I said, this isn't a story that affected me in an emotional way, but this ending is really strong as a moment for all the reasons, right? You have Zelda and Link reuniting if you really care about that. You have, you've just saved everything if you care about that, but just on the strength of like the way that it's shot with Link diving after her, grabbing, like saving her, the way that the music is playing during the ending, all of it's just a really strong moment. So it's not like I wasn't going through the game being like, oh my God, I hope Zelda's okay. I can't handle if something bad. It wasn't having something like that, but the ending was just so well done that it didn't matter if I wasn't like 100% emotionally committed the whole time. The ending still hit really well.
You know what's funny about that is I think that word still perfectly encapsulates what the ending was. It was emotional, but in a different reason, right? I was feeling all the things, but it wasn't about, well, I hope Zelda's safe. It's more about, no, you just executed this ending very superbly in my eyes.
And shout out to the music also during this, because when they hit that theme at the end, the da 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 da, that had been connected to my emotions over the course of 75 hours of playing the game. So, I mean, that's a success. That is a connection. So, like, there's more than one way to emotionally connect someone with a story or with a situation or characters or something like that. Video games are often like uniquely good at using music to do this. Especially, like, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but especially Japanese games, I feel are really good at this kind of thing. And Zelda's been so, music is so important to the series, all going back to the very beginning. But I think that was probably the thing that like really pushed that ending moment over the edge. Is when the music came in. I think I did the Breath of the Wild theme. It's da 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 da. That's the Tears of the Kingdom theme at the end there.
You got there.
Yeah, I got there. Yeah, a lot of music, a lot of hours played on both of those games. So, I guess one more thing and this is just a kind of goofy note to end on, but Link gets his normal arm back at the end. He loses the robot arm. And I kind of feel like he would have liked to keep the robot arm.
Yeah, it would have been really handy. Obviously, he wants, what was taken away from him, but I feel like that was an upgrade in almost every way.
Yeah, like might be hard to adjust to life without using Ultra Hand at a certain point. Link and Zelda are going out, doing whatever they do. Link can no longer build a giant mech for them to ride in, like an Evangelion mech for them to pilot across the countryside.
Now I want DLC episodes about Link and Zelda just going on dates and parties and all that fun stuff. Just being normal.
I kind of feel like they would have announced DLC for this if there was going to be one. It's been over 2 years now.
Oh, yeah.
2.5 years by this point.
I just want somebody else to make those. I want just the everyday Zelda Link interactions. Going on a date. Oh, let me just build this real quick.
Yeah. Link is like, Link, the cat's stuck up in the tree and he's like, I know what to do. And he builds, a mech to get it out of the top.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So, that is Tears of the Kingdom. Good discussion. Fun game, a lot of cool stuff to talk about. And even if it's not like we're going to dive into story themes too much here in the spoiler section, it's not really that kind of game for me, not that kind of experience. So I think this has been a good time. I appreciate you giving me a lot of your time to make this episode happen.
Yeah, appreciate it. Absolutely love this game. I think it's one of the best Switch games you can play, and maybe even the best Switch 2 game you can play right now. I'm not sure, but it's always a great. I appreciate you having me, and obviously we have done some very long games, so you were just helping me tackle my backlog.
There we go. Yeah. And looking forward to the next one that I have you on for. I've got some ideas, but I got to get my schedule sorted out first. So we'll definitely have you back. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody who has made it to the end with us. It has been quite a long one, longer than people may know. So please remember to look down in the show notes for bits of time. Check out the podcast, check out the YouTube channel. I'll throw a social link on there so you can follow along with what they're doing. It's definitely worth checking out. And as always, if you're here at the end, you are my hero. Tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
Welcome to Bits of Time, where we ask you the simple question, is this video game worth your time? And we're two brothers having a conversation about a game and why we loved it.
Or a difficult discussion about why I didn't or we didn't beat a game. So I hope you join us.
Because it gets pretty wacky sometimes with the questions we ask each other, and maybe a little heated every once in a while too. If you plan on sticking around, you'll be getting 2 episodes each month, the first and third Wednesday.
We also have a brand new debate-focused series, so if you want to be a part of it, join us.
Yeah, join us. Or, reach out, get in contact with us, and maybe you could be on the show with us and debating all kinds of things, granular or not. We'll see you then.
So Many Games is an independent video game website from a group of passionate people. With a team of over 10 writers doing their bit for game discoverability, you'll surely find a game that will pique your interest. Our reviews delve into the main elements of the game and how they made us feel. With unbased but fair critique and AI-free writing, we hope to offer you a safe place to find out if a game is worthy of your time. But we also write articles from Steam Next Fest catch-ups to topics of interest from the gaming world. And we also publish written interviews from developers to voice actors on our bid to shine some light on the people behind our favourite games. But that's not all, as we also offer a monthly podcast interviewing developers, artists, composers, voice actors, and anyone else we can think of to come and talk about their experiences of making their latest or not so latest projects in real time. With a fortnightly newsletter to go on top of our offerings, there really is something for everybody. So what are you waiting for? Get on over to somanygames.co.uk and see for yourself all the amazing content that we have waiting for you.